Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Corsair AX1500i. Yes, you are seeing correctly, that's 1500 watts. It's part of the AX range. I means it's digital, and this is Corsair's second generation digital architecture in this. Don't go thinking that, like with some of the other brands, it's just kind of a beefed up AX1200i. It's not. It's a completely new PSU, and the technology in it is just ridiculous. I mean, look at that, for example, titanium. It's not a platinum rated power supply. It goes beyond that. It's up to 94% efficient. And we're going to have to kind of go into that, but where it is so efficient, it means it hardly produces any heat, so it means the fans don't have to cut in for ages. There is quite literally so much for me to try and talk to you about with this, but I need to try and keep the video length down because it arrived at 4 PM the day before the NDA, and the NDA is 2 PM in the afternoon, so I've got essentially 22 hours and I'm going to need to get some sleep to try and get this done, and I've jumped straight on it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the camera and I'm going to bring you in for a first look at the unit itself. Okay then, so we have the unit in our hands. But before we go around it, I'm going to talk to you about some of the slides and a lot of the features with this, because it's absolutely ram-packed. Now I've made up some little overlays to go over the screen so that you can see it, and you can also read it. You can pretty much just pause them if you want, but it's just for a good reference. But anyway, so I'm going to bring the first slide up, and essentially it's digitally controlled power. It's got a state-of-the-art DSP based control providing outstanding DC voltage regulation, reliability and stability. And yes, I am reading this off of notes because there is absolutely no way I could remember all of this and get everything right. Then it's got 80 plus titanium efficiency, over 94% efficient, which is just nuts. And then it's got ultra low noise design thanks to its high efficiency. It's got a zero fan mode. The fan doesn't even spin up till it's at 30%, and that's 450 watts you can pull from it, and it will stay 100% and 100% passive, and it won't do anything. And then the fan curve is really gradual. Low noise and ripple. It puts ATX spec to shame. They need a Corsair spec really. The next thing, 125 amp single 12 volt rail. It's got 1500 watts available just from that 12 volt rail, that plus 12 volt rail, which is just insane. There's a lot about the Corsair link. I'm going to show you a quick thing about the Corsair link where you can watch the efficiency, you can monitor the volts, and it's nuts, and you can actually log it all as well, so you can see how much how the unit was performing when you're in your games or when you're benchmarking, and you can monitor temperatures and stuff with it as well. There's loads in there. Also with the Corsair Link interface, they've got a cable that goes direct from the power supply to your internal USB port for the first time, but I'll show you that in a minute. It's got a self-test switch, and let's face it, when you've got loads and loads of graphics cards and stuff on there, you might be getting a problem. Just the fact that you can hit that switch mean it will put your mind at rest. You know that your power supply is alright, so you need to go looking for problems elsewhere. Fully modular cables, and I will show you the cables in depth in a bit. And it says that it's reliable, but to be fair, the Corsair stuff generally always is, but it's all jack caps, 105C rated jack caps as well, and it's rated to run at its maximum load at 50C, so it's bonkers. And then it's protective. You've got loads of overcurrent OVP, so over voltage protection, OCP, over current protection, temperature protection, short circuit protection, and that's on all the rails. But also something else is it's got a 7-year warranty. So back at the unit itself, first thing I want to show you, which is kind of strange, but I obviously do have an AX1200i, and just to reiterate my point about the size difference, if I if I line, oh no, I had it right in the first place, I should have left it where it was. You can see here that we've got over 20 millimeters of extra length on the 1500i. It's a mammoth unit, and I do mean humongous. Now a lot of people, I know we're already probably going 1500 watts, you're not going to need that. Well, to be fair, units like this are have come about because of the astronomical amount of you out there that are mining, and it does come with a lot of PCI Express connectors, which I'll show you in a bit. But also with graphics cards like the 295X that are out now, I mean, they do say that that needs a 1000 watt power supply just to run. Now it doesn't, even in a high-end system, it's not going to pull 1000 watts, but they're just covering their arse because there are a lot of shoddy power supplies out there. The AX1200i is more than enough for a single 295X2. It's strong enough as well, and it will give you plenty of headroom, so the fan, you know what I mean, it won't be running it is rated all the time. But this type of thing would be perfect for a pair of them and still have that bit of headroom above as well. I will be showing you this with a pair of 295s later in the video, because I've pulled out some wonders. Anyway, or at least I hope I am, because I need to get it done when in time. But anyway, so we've got that. So it's got a rather chunky power supply connector. Because they always send these to me from HQ, it's a shame that it's got an American connector on it. Luckily I do have an adapter, but if you buy it in the UK, or depending on where you come from, you will get the right plug that comes with it. I always end up with US adapters. We've got the fan in the middle. Again, you can see there's a lot of real estate on either end of this. I've not had it powered up yet, but they do 100% fan burst at the beginning. It's just the unit's way of testing the fan speed. It gives it a short burst at 100% and then it will go passive. That's just normal. And one of the things I can say is it's kind of a night, when you first get it, it'll annoy you, but after you've lived with it for a week or so, you'll actually find it quite reassuring, because you'll hit it and it's almost the way of knowing that your PC's on. My rig is so quiet anyway that I generally have to look to make sure it's on, until the monitors and everything flash up. But the 100% fan mode is like a nice, yep, it's definitely starting. So it just depends how you want to kind of flow with it. Now, round the back, we will go over the cables in a minute. Remember this, because it's, in fact, I'm just going to show you. We've got the USB COM port there. Now I have to find the cable, because I've moved them all over the place. And is that it? Yeah. Where's that one? There we go. Right, so I found the cable. Essentially, there is a cable now that's USB, and it goes from the power supply straight into an internal USB header. So you can connect the power supply straight up to your motherboard this time, which is great. Before, you had to have it go into Link Commander or into your H100 with this cable, which you can still do. You can still use the COM port, plug it into your Link Commander, or because the H100i acts as a link hub, you can use this cable and you can plug it into your H100i, which is generally what I've done with the AX1200i in the past. But this is brilliant, because now there's obviously the H105, which is a brilliant cooler, bit thicker, but it hasn't got all the digital stuff on it. You can just use this, plug it straight into your motherboard. Bosh, lovely. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 possible connectors there. That's for your CPU 4+4, your 8-pin connectors, and PCI Express connectors. I would hazard a guess that you could probably get away with using all of them for PCI Express if you wanted. If you're going to run it as a slave and stuff. There's 6 peripheral connectors there, but talking of cables, what I do want to say is, I mean, there's loads. There really is loads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring all the cables in, and we'll be back in a sec. Right then, peeps. So there is a lot of cables, and I mean like an obscene amount of cables. But we're going to do a nice little look. In fact, what I'll do is I'll zoom you in so that you can have a properly good look. I'm hoping, I know the new camera zooms in slow, but I'm hoping that it'll do this justice. Right, so cables. As you can see, they're all black, they're all flat. Sometimes you get the 24 pin and it's braided, but these are all like this. It's very similar to the RM cables. So we've got all of those. Now there are a lot of the cables as well. So as you can see, we've got all of these ones here, but you've got the 24 pin is 710 millimeters long. There's two 8-pin CPU powers, one 650mm long, the other one is 800mm long. There's 10 PCI Express connectors, 6 of them are 650mm long, 4 of them are 800mm long. There's 20 SATA connectors in total. There's a selection of those on there, like 3 have got 4 on, there's 2 with 4 on, it's insane. There's 12 total Molex connectors that you can use and 2 floppies. And a lot of people kind of go, whoa, you still need floppy connector. I know sound cards that use these, and there are still things that are being even sold today with a floppy power connector on, so these can be really handy. And the fact that there's 2, it's just like win-win. It's kind of like they've gone absolutely insane in the membrane with cables. Now I'm not going to stop the camera this time, I'm going to move all of these out the way, and then while I'm chatting I'm just going to do this, because something else with the AX range, the AXIs and the RMs share the same pinouts, so you can get the Corsair braided cable kits. Now I've got all of the colours, but the silver or the gunmetal one that I've got, I'm actually using the 24 pin in my motherboard test rig, so I'm just going to have to show you a PCI Express connector. But they do individually braided cable kits. You have to buy this 24 pin separately, and then you get the box of all the other bits. But they do gunmetal grey, they do what I'm going to call Nvidia green, they do a lovely red, and it's nice to see red actually looking red in my camera, even though I've got the lights on in the room. So we've got red, they do a normal black, individually braided black, and then they also do blue and white. So if you know, by the time you've spent out 329 quid for the power supply, which is what I'm hearing it's going to cost, which is a lot of money for a power supply, if you're going to be building a show-off system that you're going to be using, you may be well interested in these. And let's face it, when it comes to cable braiding, it takes ages, and you do end up spending a lot of money on the braid as well. So this is a really quick and easy way. It doesn't void your warranty. You literally just buy them, plug them in, they're direct replacement. They're not extensions. And that's the other critical thing as well. It's not extensions, so these ends actually go straight into your power supply and then into your motherboard. So it's red from the beginning to the end, so you actually get to see the coloured cables on the power supply end as well, which is obviously lovely. Now, I need to actually get the tester out so that we can actually see how this is, because I'm filming this live. I'm now going to go and do the testing and see what it's like, and I will film that in a bit. So I need to stop talking and get on with my work, or I'm never going to get to bed. Okay then peeps, so got the sun moon ready, and we've got the oscilloscope up here so we can look at ripple. Now something I do need to say is when we kind of got the sun moon, we got up, it's safely able to test up to 1200 watts. I can do, and I have been told I can run 1500 watts in short bursts. The problem is if it does decide that it wants to have a hissy fit with 1500 watts, because you know what I mean, when I'm filming and stuff, I generally end up having it on for longer than I would do when I'm just taking the test results. It has to go back to China really to be repaired. So it's not something that I'm comfortable with doing. And when we got it, the next model up from this that can do more wattage was an obscene amount more. I mean, this was not cheap anyway. We're talking multiple thousands of pounds this cost. But also with all the wattages, with all the everything getting much more efficient, didn't really think that we would be getting power supplies more than 1200 watt anyway. Because obviously, like the Nvidia graphics cards, for argument's sake, they're all, you know, coming down the ranks. AMD seem to have gone the opposite way with theirs. But obviously, with the mining and like for argument's sake, the 295X2, bigger power supplies are now kind of needed again. So what I'm going to do is when we do our efficiency test, where we're going to be looking for that magic 94% efficiency, we normally take that result at 50% anyway. So what I've got is a small test, which is 150 watts. So that's going to be around the kind of like desktop-y type mark. So really low power, just to see how the unit reacts. But also with that, what we've done is we've put all the load on the 24 pin. We've not put any on the PCI Express or anything. Then what I've done is a 50% test, 750 watts. And that will give us our magical efficiency test. And then I've also done a 1200 watt test, which is still an obscene amount of wattage to be pulling from a power supply, but it will give us a good look at any ripple and stuff, and then see what the voltage stability is like as well. So first thing we need to do is turn the unit on, so ta-da! And then when I press the black button in a second, what it's then going to basically do is turn the power supply on. And obviously with this, it will do a 100% fan speed check when it's first switched on. So I'm going to shut up, and you can see this kick in, and you can also hear it because I've got my mic on. Right, that's actually turning the fan off now, and it's just kind of spinning and running down. Now the one thing I can say to you straight away, because obviously I've got an AX1500i in my rig, and I use one in the bench rig as well, is that for the initial startup, it's actually really quiet. It's noticeably quieter than the AX1200i. So that is eventually, there you go, it's just stopped there now. So that's stopped. We're running at 148.9 watts, so almost 150 watts. You can see that's what the load, the power supply is on, but it's actually taken 160 watts from the wall, and then that means that we've got an 89.8-90% efficiency rate in there. So considering the wattage, 90% efficient, pretty damn good, very good in fact. What we can also do though is if I get rid of that, this is now, because we've got a little volt thing, these are our voltages. Now what you need to remember is all of these ones around the outside, all the ones that are 11.9998, they're not under any load at all. We've got meter A, which is the 24 pins under all the load, so 11.96. That's still pretty damn good. Trust me, I've seen these go like ridiculously lower than that. You know, it's less than half a I was going to say half a volt, but that would be down to 11.5. It's a lot, it's very negligible. So we're all right with that, we're happy with that. So next thing that we want to do is we can flick across. If I stick it, Shift H, we go to the different mode, we stick it on to 50%. You can see here, 752.12 flicking around. And then, so that's how much watts it's putting the power supply under. Then that means that it's then pulling around 800 watts from the wall, and you can see down here 94, it's going sort of 93.9, 94, I've actually seen it go to 94.1% efficiency. So there's your titanium rating. It was flicking up to 94.2 then. Also, what we have got, although I don't want to move it around too much, is it's under 750 watts of load, and that's how much the fan's spinning. In fact, I'm not even sure whether it's trying to turn the fan off, but you can't. All the noise that you're hearing is the power supply tester. This is making no noise whatsoever, and I can't hear any electrical noise or anything there either. So we've got that. We can have a look at the volts quick. Well, we could have done if I hadn't just turned it off. Genius! What I basically just did there was, and I'll leave it on, because and by leave it on I mean I'm not going to cut it out of the video. I didn't press Shift and H at the same time, and I've just done a short test. So we turn it off, turn it on, go back to that, turn it on. Right, so that's just doing that because it's restarting the power supply. Now we want to go Shift H. There we go. Right, so now we go up to 750 watts again. Shift H out. Right, so now we can look at all of the voltages. There's a range between them, because we've gone from 11.96. Some of them are actually bang on the 12 mark, and these are under quite a bit of load as well. Amps. So they're under 9.1 amps of load each, and you can see that we've got 12, 12, 11.98, 11.98, 11.96, 11.97. So the lowest is 9.7 up to about 12. So now the what we'll do is we'll go H, so we can see this again. And now we're going to go to the Big Daddy test. And we're going to go up to 1200 watts. So we've got 1197, 1198 watts being pulled from the power supply, which means 1280 watts from the wall. And as you can see here, we're still at 93.3, 93.456 then percent efficiency, even at 1200 watts. But also, the most important thing to talk about here, again, is the fan. It's not, and to be fair, the AX1200 watt at this kind of load would, the fan would be really kicking in, and it would be pumping and a lot of heat out. The AX1200i that I had at the Acer show, there was probably the warmest bit about the PC, God bless its soul, although it's the original one that I had. This is just so quiet, and I've got to admit, I was worried about this because the RMs are just ridiculously quiet, and I did wonder whether Corsair would be able to kind of move those technologies into the AX1500i. And that is actually, for a 1200 watt load, is brilliant. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attempt to switch that off. Yes! Now, voltages again. 1198 stayed the same. We've got a 9.7 there, 12.12. Over here we're down to 11.96, 11.95. But that's still pretty damn good. So we've not got to worry about the voltages. What I'm going to do is we can look up here. This is nuts. We've got a 9.8 ripple at 1200 watts. That is just to be fair, that is just like mind-boggling. I think that's like half what the AX1200i was. It's crazy. In fact, it's that crazy, I'm now going to stop the camera quickly and go and look at what the RM was at 1000 watts, which was at its rated speed, just so that I can see this. Okay, so I checked because I was surprised, massively surprised. Now I know this is running under its rated, but at 1000 watts, which is the RM1000's rated speed, it was getting around 24 millivolts of ripple. So I know this is a 1500 watt and I know it's running under rated, but it's still, to me, kind of a bit of an eye-opener that at 1200 watts there's only 9 millivolts, or we'll say 9.5 because I saw it go to 9.4 then, or 9.8. Alright, so we'll say 10 millivolts of ripple. But that to me at 1200 watts, I know at the end of the day, I'm not a power supply master. I can understand these things, but I'm still learning. But for me, that kind of load and that kind of ripple was just like, really? I'm properly surprised at that, in a very, very good surprised way as well. But what I'm going to do now, so we've done all the tests. It's been on for a long time. And it's still not even warm. The fan is, you know, spinning, but it's not, considering, like I said, we've got a consistent 1200 watt. I think the actual power supply tester itself is warmer. So I'm going to go back down through, so we can see up here, 9.2. Going to put it down to half. The ripple now is down to 8, so it's only gone down 2. And I'm going to go down again. We're now at 150 watts and we're down to 6. So there's actually, going from 150 watt load to 1200 watt load, there's only 3 millivolts of difference, which is just insane. So as far as ripple's concerned, it's like, it's crazy good. Absolutely bonkersly mental crazy good. Now, my problem is I've said, you know, we've done this, but now I want to do something a little bit different with it, and I shouldn't probably bother, but it's where I'm trying to do a few different things, even though I've not got much time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick the power supply in my graphics card test rig, where at this present moment in time I have a 295X2 in. And then what we're going to do after we've had a look at it with one, I'm then going to go, okay, and I'm going to stick another one in. So, stay tuned. Hey peeps! So, I've got everything kind of set up. It may not be the prettiest way of doing things, but the rig itself is quite tidy. It's just all the cables and everything on the desk don't look very nice. But what we need to do is, if we zoom in there, we can see that will be the wattage for what is actually being pulled from the wall with the power supply itself. The rig on the right hand side is a Rampage 4 Black Edition 4960X. We've got 16 gigabyte of 2400 megahertz Corsair Dominator Platinum. Obviously the AX1500i. We've got a H105 in the roof. We've got a GTX 240 Neutron for the operating system drive, and then we've got a 240 gigabyte Force LS for the game drive. And then the graphics card, and the main source of power draw is a Power Color 295X2, soon to be joined with another one. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to come back around this way and we're going to zoom in, and it's just so that you can see it starting up, because I think you'll be surprised how many watts this thing's going to pull just starting up. Now, a lot of the fan noise that you're going to hear is the 295X2. There's the bleep, goes up to about 280, 290 watts. Right, and just to show you the power supply, it's completely passive in there now. It's actually quite well lit in the video. It's obviously our custom test rig that you've seen recently from the show. Now if I rejig and come in, what we're going to do, I know it's a lot of camera moving and stuff like that, but what we're going to do is we've got the new Corsair link. So it's obviously just starting up. It doesn't, you know, it's not just there instantly. Ignore the flashy red thing. It's just going spaz that it's not getting a temperature for the graphics card, but it doesn't provide one. Now, the main thing, in fact, what I'll do is I'll go like this. The main thing that we can look at is the power, and this is actually quite handy, because over here you can actually see what your maximums have been. We can even just reset those quickly. Reset max. These are all the settings down the bottom so that you can put it into like a multi-rail mode, but most setups are going to more than likely want you to just go with that nice single strong rail. You can see voltages here, peripheral voltages, because that's where the 9s and the 12. We've got 5 volt voltage, 3.3 volt voltage. Then we've got amps. It's actually quite a nice in-depth setup considering it's software based. We can also see our AX1500i temperature. We can see AX1500i fan. It's obviously on 0 at the minute. So there's a lot of info in there. But what I'm going to do is we'll make it smaller like that, and then when we look at it in a minute we can just zoom in. I'm hoping, because I don't know 100%, yeah I can do, there we go. Right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to have a quick look. We've got a couple of tests that we can run with a single card, and one of the ones I like is I get Unigine Valley out. It's on 2560 by 1440, 8 anti-aliasing, so it's maximum that we can do for this screen. And then we're going to hit run, and then we'll have a look at the wattage. So we're looking at 650 maximum there at the minute, 658, 660. So we're up to about 670 maximum. You can let this loop and loop and loop and loop and loop. 675 there I saw briefly, 685, 695. Where are we going to see that 700? So anyway, we can let that loop for a long time, but you can see that it's putting just below 700 watts of load on it. And if we come out, spin the camera around, I'll turn it off. So, if we zoom in on the software, now don't forget the actual unit tester that we've got may differentiate between what the power supply's saying, because as long as we use the same unit all the time and take the same reading off the same thing, we'll be fine. I'm just showing you the difference between the two. Well, I saw about 690, but this is saying, if we have a look here, power in max was 701 watts, actual power out is 636 watts. So there's a 65 watt difference, and then that meant that we were running, apparently the efficiency was about 55.9. So yeah, that's not going to be tremendously accurate, and that's no fault of Corsair themselves. That's just, you know, you have to allow for tolerances and stuff like that. It's just kind of, I use it as a reference tool rather than a gospel tool. But the other thing that we can do, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset this max. So I'm going to open OCCT. I'm going to go power supply. There we go. Anything I am going to do is turn the resolution right up, use all logical cores, full screen, DirectX 11, right. So then I'm going to go automatic, 0, 30, 0, 0, right. So, and what I'm going to do is we're going to hit go on that, and it's now going to make everything cry. We can see there that we're getting about 530. So now you can understand why I like to use Unigine for load testing and also the wattage. The reason why I run OCCT is a lot of people said to me last time when I was doing it that I should have run the power supply test, and it does put a decent amount of load on, but Unigine is pretty good. So I'm going to turn that off quickly, flip that out. If we pan round, we can see there 598 watts in, 548 watts delivered to the rig. But what I'm going to do quickly now is we can see here that we've got the AX500 watt temperature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Unigine on, and I'm going to leave this running for 30 minutes, and then after 30 minutes we can come back and I'll stop it with you and we can see what temperature the power supply has got to. But the power supply fan is not running at the minute, and it's being put under, we'll say 650 watts worth of load, which, as I've kind of said to you already, that's a 295X2 having like a decent amount of gaming load putting on it. It's a fair old amount of wattage there. We're flicking up around the 680, 690 kind of wattage mode. And that is a lot of watts for a gaming rig. I can't stress enough. That's pulling an obscene amount of wattage for this. Normally when I'm testing these, or with this rig and a graphics card, you're looking at the power supply fan has just started. You're looking at around the 450 to 500 watts max mark. So the fact that we're pulling another 180 watts plus just goes to show you how power hungry the 295X2 is. Anyway, I'm going to let that run and we'll be back in 30 minutes to look at the power supply temperature. Okay then peeps, you can see the power supply fan is spinning. We can also see that we're up over the 700 watts mark now. I'm not sure when it gets warm it starts pulling more power, I don't know. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to spin round, and I will turn off Unigine. And then the first thing that we want to look at is their temperature. So the power supply has got up to 40.1. The fan is actually just stopping now as well, just to kind of show you, just down there. The load's gone, it's actually slowing down. It's been, have to admit, that the bearing on that's amazing, because they spin for ages, but it is stopping. I can see it slowing down. Anyway, so we can also see up here 686 watts actually pulled by the rig, 735 watts pulled by the wall. So there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another 295X2 in there and see what this power supply is like when we put it under a lot of continuous load. Okay then peeps, so oh my days, I've got two 295X2s in there now. I'll move you over. Don't worry, there will be an overkill 3D video about this later on, where we're going to do specific stuff about 1 card, 2 cards. I've got some bonkers mantle stuff planned as well. But obviously we just want to talk about the power supply for now, and how the power supply copes, what it's that this pulls, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll move back. Go up a little bit. Right, so what I've done is I have reset the maximum. You can see now it's actually pulling 170 watts just from the rig now, which is basically 260 watts from the wall. As we can see there, just about. I do love this new camera. Anyway, so right, we've got that. We've got that over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the same thing again. Now, one thing I do want to say is temperature 29.4 at the moment. The fan is actually spinning as well, considering it's pulling such a low wattage. But it's, I have to say, just to make it fair, it is hardly spinning. You can see it's just like wah wah wah. But it is getting warm in the room. But anyway, what we're going to do is we've got Unigine up. So I'm going to flick that. We can go around, and I will let you look at this, because I know everyone's itching to see what happens with this. So there we go, about 1160 watts so far. It will obviously jump up and down. Now again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this run for about 30 minutes. Give you a look at the fan as well there. It's quite nuts to think that the graphics cards are making a fair bit of noise. Oh, I saw 1200 watts then. 1209, 1215, yeah! Right, so I'm going to leave this running like this. Now this is obviously a very high-end system. This is obviously a great real-world test. I know we're only going to be looking at the amount of watts that's been pulled and temperatures and stuff, but we'll let this run through, and I will be back shortly. Okay then peeps, so it has been running for just over half an hour, and I can't believe how warm the radiators have got on the graphics cards. But anyway, we're here to talk about the power supply. The fan is going. It is quiet. It's not noisy at all. It's definitely quieter than the AX1500i. I've seen about 1200, 1250 coming out of the tester. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go up here I'm going to quit Unigen, give everything a chance to kind of go. Because obviously what we want to do, let's have a look. So the temperature's gone up about 1.5 degrees on the power supply from having one 295X2 to 2, and we saw that it was 750 RPM when we switched off for the power supply fan, which is all pretty good. We can see then the efficiency apparently at one point was at 99%. That's quite nice. But 1170 watts the rig was pulling, which meant we were pulling 1267.6 from the wall, which tallies up with what I'd seen on the wattage tester. Now, obviously, we can't really do an immense amount with that data. It's just one of those nice things to see, you know, what it does. And what I need to do now is really get into a conclusion, because I have had a lot of coffee while this hour-long 2 tests have been done. So I need to get the conclusion finished before I fall asleep. Right then, peeps, on to the conclusion. Now, I know this review has been slightly unorthodox, but obviously I had it for less than a day, and I was like really pushing to try and get the you know, content up ready for the NDA. So we didn't spend as much time as we normally would have done on the power supply tester in the video, but last time the video ended up being an hour long, so I was just trying to get a little bit more, you know, stuff in there, which is why I decided to break out the 295X2s. Now I know really with that we only saw the temperature that the power supply got to, and then the wattage that was pulled, but I still think that's quite a valid point to cover for a 1500 watt power supply. So I know the price is going to be $329.99, which is an eye-watering amount of money. Award that I'm going to give it, I was kind of umming and ahhing between performance, which is when we normally talk about ridiculously high prices, but then I decided no, I'm just going to give it the gold, because let's face it, if you're going to be spending the amount of money that requires a power supply like this in the first place, you're not going to want to skimp on something that, if it goes pop, can take your multiple thousands of pounds worth of graphics cards with it. Now previously, as I said, never really thought that we were going to need a 1500 watt power supply, but with the 295X2, as you can see, we did get over that 1200 watt mark being pulled from the wall. Now the AX1200 watt would still probably get away with powering these, but it'd be running on its limits. So it would be getting warm, the fan would be spun right up, it would be, do you know what I mean, it would be a bit iffy. Also, we saw about 1250 watts, but we were only putting this through a single 2560 by 1440 screen. If I'd done the test on the 4K screen that I've got here, the wattage, it would have pulled a lot more watts. To put it into context, if I turn it down to 1080p, the rig will pull under 1000 watts. Up to 2560 by 1440, it bumps up 200 watts. So you can you will see the point that if we run 4K, we could have even been pulling 1350 watts possibly from the wall, which is something that I will cover when we do the graphics cards and stuff. But I'm just trying to get as much as I possibly can do in just a really short amount of time. So thanks to graphics cards like this coming to the market, and more importantly really, I think most people are going to end up buying this for the likes of mining, but even if you've got a mega gaming rig, and the thing is with this is it is that much quieter than the AX1200i and that much more stable. It's actually surprised me. That 9 millivolts of ripple at 1200 watt, even I was like, really? That low? I mean, when you think that from going from kind of almost idle at 6 millivolts at ripple, then up to just 9 millivolts of ripple at 1200 watt, it was just like, oh my days, that's amazing. So it properly had me surprised. Now I know, before people start saying, oh, that was only the Ripple at 1200 watt, it wasn't running at 1500 watt. I know that, but I've done the best that I possibly can do with it. And I think the thing to take away from this is, if you want the absolute best, if you want a high powered system but quiet, because I've got to admit, peeps, the other 1200 and even some of the 1500 watt power supplies that I've used, seen, know about, they are not this quiet with this much load on them. They're just not. I'm not going to start mentioning other brands and starting a slanging match, but I can promise you, for the amount of watts that this pulled, it was so calm and collected, it was ridiculous. I had the AX1200 watt at a show recently, and with a pair of 780 ties on it, you could feel there was a lot of warmth coming out of the power supply where it was being run, you know, quite hard. This, although yes, the power supply did get to 41 degrees, it certainly wasn't chucking you know, torrents and torrents of heat out the back, and that just goes down to show you quite how efficient this thing works, because obviously if it's creating heat, that's lost energy, that's lost efficiency. So by staying that, you know, cool and calm and collected, that's where your efficiency rating comes from. So I hope you enjoyed our slightly different take on a power supply review. The AX1500i is now going to be staying in the graphics card test rig for quite a bit, because obviously I'm going to need this for when I run these two cards together. So make sure you check back if you're interested in seeing performance on the 295X2s and stuff like that. I've got an obscene amount of work that I do need to get done over the next couple of weeks, and then I've also got piles and piles of motherboards to test as well. But AX1500i, the best power supply that Corsair have ever produced. And I have to admit, I said at the beginning, I'll say it again, I was a bit worried that the RMs were that quiet. This was just going to have all the bells and whistles but still come in to be noisy. It's properly surprised me how cool and how quiet this thing has been, even though I've properly tortured it. So I am very impressed with this. It's massive thumbs up. I am kind of like going around in circles and jittering a little bit because I need to stop drinking coffee and go to bed, basically. But for now at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with the Gold Award winning Corsair AX1500i titanium 94% efficiency rated power supply out. Ding! It's Brian! It's Brian the robot!